It's actually repairing your DNA's ability to express the way it used to when it was younger. What we're doing here, we're getting as far upstream as we possibly can to help the body to do something that regenerates its ability to heal on its own. So we're not interfering, right? We're actually just flipping a switch back on.
If you are someone who has heard this massive buzzword, peptides, and you're maybe curious about what these little magical compounds are and can do for you, this is an episode you do not want to miss. I am so excited to sit down with my dear friend, Nathalie Niddam. She is a holistic nutritionist. She's a longevity expert, and she helps women in our 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond live our optimal health. This woman travels the world and speaks all over the place on peptides and bioregulators. She's also super tapped into the latest health tech. But what's my favorite is she is very tapped into our innate wisdom and ability to heal ourselves. I'm very excited to sit down and have this conversation. My goal is for you, the listener, to walk away with really simplified information. Are peptides something that's for you? How to get them? How much to take? What not to do? All the do's and don'ts of peptides and bioregulators. Welcome, Nathalie.
Thank you so much, Melissa. It's such a pleasure to be here. We finally made it work. For those of you, the backstory on this podcast is we have tried not once, not twice, 3 times to record remotely, and the universe said, yeah, no, this conversation needs to happen in person.
Totally.
And so here we are in Copenhagen. Which is not where either of us live.
The goal here in my mind is, I've heard of peptides. Bioregulators are kind of new to me. Mm-hmm. Nathalie just spoke on stage here. You rocked the house.
Thank you.
You simplified this topic. And so what I always want to do on my podcast is a couple of things. One, I want to remind people of the incredible power of the human body. Because I know in the age of information and knowledge, I think that message is getting kind of lost.
Yeah.
We are outsourcing our power, and we're just constantly turning to the next thing that either changes our mood or changes our health. I think all these things are really important, right? I'm a huge biohacker. We use these tools in our house. I'm very curious about peptides. And also something that I love that you said on stage is what these really do is they're a compound, and they help turn back on or flip the switch to our innate ability to rejuvenate. And so I'm really excited to kind of break this down. The other thing I like to do in every podcast before we really dive in is simplify the information.
Okay.
So any listener that takes, half hour, 45 minutes, however long we go on this thing, to take this time out of their lives, I want them to walk away with something to grab onto.
Okay.
This isn't just conceptual. It's like, okay, here's what I do, or here's what I don't do. So you guys, you're going to get a lot out of this conversation. So just buckle up.
Okay. Okay. Well, why don't we start with what are peptides and bioregulators and how are they different? So bioregulator peptides. So first of all, what's a peptide? A peptide is nothing more than a small protein. It's defined by its length. So proteins are made up of amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein. Typically, a peptide is no longer than 50 amino acids. Right? You have proteins in your body that are hundreds, thousands of amino acids, and they're kind of folded into these complex origami shapes that exposes receptors and allows them to interact with the cells in your body. The peptide can also be folded up, but it's only 50 amino acids. The bioregulator peptide is 2 to 4 amino acids, so it's even tinier. And I'll explain to you in a minute why that actually even matters. So we can call them long-chain peptides and bioregulator short-chain peptides. Okay? Mm-hmm. So the long-chain peptides act as signaling molecules to your cells and get them doing certain things for you. Most of the peptides, not necessarily all, but most peptides, well, actually all of them are either a fragment or a whole protein that is already existing in your body. It's just that what we're doing now is we're reapplying them to elicit therapeutic response.
Okay, so it's something that already exists, and we're just kind of giving the body a little nudge or giving the body more.
Yeah, okay. And so sometimes it doesn't exist exactly as a protein, but it's a chemical compound, if you will, that is designed to bind with a receptor in the body. So we'll call it something or other agonist. Like the GLP-1 agonist that all of you have probably heard of, right?
Yep.
And we can talk about those a little bit. But at the end of the day, what's happening with the peptides is it's upregulating your body's own capacity to to produce a response. And with the bioregulators, it's a little bit different because the bioregulator, being as tiny as it is, and these are all naturally occurring in the body, right? But they also are all naturally occurring in animal bodies, in plants, in bacteria. Like and scientists, when they find compounds or elements that are preserved across all species, take notice. Because if Mother Nature thinks it's really important for this thing to exist in all species, we know it's pretty important, period. So the bioregulator, instead of with the longer chain peptides, the longer chain will interact with receptors on your cells.
So that's like a lock and key, right?
Correct. So you've got a cell, you've got like a catcher's mitt here, and you've got the peptide that comes along and fits into the catcher's mitt and you start to
normal
cascade.
life.
Correct.
Okay.
With the bioregulator peptide, we call them epigenetic switches. Big word. So we know our genetics is our genetic code. Epigenetics is things from either the environment or within your body that affects how those genes express. So an epigenetic switch is going to be a small compound that's going to flip a gene, right? It's going to interact with your DNA. So that means that the bioregulator is introduced into the body. It finds its way to the cell. It gets into the cell. It gets into the nucleus. And it binds and it interacts with the DNA. So there's, a couple of different ways of expressing what the bioregulator is actually doing. And one of the more recent theories I've heard expressed, or one of the more recent ways I've heard it expressed at, is that it's actually maybe repairing your DNA's ability to express the way it used to when it was younger.
Oh, okay.
So once again, what we're doing here, we're getting as far upstream as we possibly can to help the body to do something that regenerates its ability to heal on its own. So we're not interfering, right? We're actually just flipping a switch back on.
I love that. Yeah. And I want to talk about upstream.
Yeah.
Because I think upstream is something that it's a word that we use a lot. And this is a really powerful concept. And I want people to know this word. So when we say upstream, you can literally think about an analogy of there's like a story that I loved, and it was literally a stream. And people were falling in the stream and floating down the stream and drowning. And this is like a fable. This is a story, but this is what I think of when we say upstream. And floating down the river, and some were like almost drowning. And so people were, down on the bank of the river, pulling these people out and saving their lives. And it was like by the dozens, right? Just saving and pulling these people out. And someone, a natural practitioner,
went running upstream.
How about we go upstream and figure out why they're falling in first? And so that's a really good analogy, because a lot of the guests that I bring on, or a lot of, people that look at the body in this way from an upstream point of view, we don't want to treat the end result, the symptoms. We don't want to put a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. We don't want to cover up the amazing signals that the body's giving us. We want to go upstream, turn that switch back on, and let the body do what it does.
Love it. It's, it's like the difference for a type 2 diabetic who is taking supplements, metformin, insulin, whatever it is, versus changing their lifestyle and their diet to the point where they're able to recalibrate.
Right. Going upstream.
Yeah,
exact
so
same
always
thing.
That's a
Starting at the
beautiful
source.
analogy. I like that.
Okay. I feel like we have a bit of a knowledge of peptides and bioregulators. I guess my next question would be, for a woman ages 35 to 70 and beyond, like you usually speak to, how do we know if it's something that we need to be looking at?
Yeah. So I think the answer to that question is about what do you have going on, right? And what else are you doing? So definitely with the bioregulator peptides, when we're looking at a compound that can help to restore a different system or an organ or a gland's ability to function better, we can look at it in two ways. We can look at, and this has a lot to do with how bioregulators work. So how bioregulators work is their mandate is to restore balance, right? They're not about super physiologic results. So if somebody tells you I took a bioregulator and now I'm way better at doing this than the normal person, you got to ask some questions. But if what they're saying is I've been using a bioregulator or bioregulator stack, and I've restored my ability to function well, that's what the bioregulator does.
Okay.
Right? So, and that is inherently what makes bioregulators pretty safe. Because what they're really doing, and I'll give you an example. This is all very abstract right now. So let's say we're looking at the thyroid gland, right? Some people are hyperthyroid. A lot of people are hypothyroid. Thyroid's lost its ability to balance itself. So there is a bioregulator for the thyroid. It's an extract from thyroid. Now, it's not an extract like a desiccated thyroid that's coming with T3 and T4 and all this stuff. It's much more refined. It really contains peptide sequences, so amino acid sequences in there that help to restore the ability of the thyroid to function properly. And that means we can use the thyroid bioregulator for a person who is hyper or hypothyroid because it's going to help to get to the root. Now, if you have a thyroid issue, this alone is not going to do the work for you. You've got to figure out are there foods? Are there lifestyle factors that I have to take into account? Where I've seen people really have success with the thyroid bioregulator is when they're working with a practitioner, they're doing all the things, and then they bring the thyroid bioregulator in, and lo and behold, the needle starts to move.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also to bring in another concept on the bioregulators, then we'll move back to peptides. And that is that the bioregulator, what we need to think about when we're using bioregulators is what are all the systems in the body that are contributing here, right? So when our thyroid is sluggish, sometimes it's because our adrenals are kind of dragging them down because the adrenals can't keep up with whatever's going on in your life. So the adrenal is sending a signal to the thyroid, you need to slow down. Like, we just can't keep up. So sometimes we also need to be supporting the adrenal glands as well as the thyroid. Upstream. And maybe we need to help out the central nervous system, the brain, that HPA axis. We need to address that whole chain to help everybody come back into balance together. Because if I balance my thyroid, or I think I'm going to balance my thyroid, but my adrenals are on the floor, it ain't going to happen. Right?
Yeah, I was glad you brought that up on stage because it's essentially, I mean, I love nervous system regulation. That's my thing. That is like the top of the hierarchy for everything. Talk about hormones, metabolism, blood sugar, thyroid, gut. Every single talk here today that I have listened to, I'm like, regulate your nervous system.
Yeah. Yeah.
Upstream.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people talking about nervous system regulation. It's amazing. I think even in the sexuality talk, they were talking. I mean, you cannot have a good sexual experience if you're in fight or flight. If you're in fight or flight, because your body's going, you know what, we're busy right now.
Yeah, we're in survival, and we're living in that state. We're living in chronic stress.
100%.
Okay, so I do want to talk about symptoms for a minute. I do want to go downstream.
Okay, sure.
So someone, maybe very new to this peptide bioregulator conversation, what is causing people to maybe reach out and gravitate towards this? Like, what are they experiencing in their body?
Self-care needs a rebrand, and that's exactly why I wrote this book, The Connection Code, and it's out now. I'm so excited. I wrote this for the woman who feels like she has lost herself or just simply needs a reminder that everything she's searching for is already inside of her. Inside this book, you're going to find simple, science-backed tools to help you reset in real-life moments, like in the carpool line or between back-to-back meetings, or maybe when you catch yourself unfortunately snapping at the people you love most. I designed the cover and made it playful on purpose because so many of us have lost this aspect of ourselves, and we need that invitation and reminder to bring back joy every single day. Pre-order your copy today, and you'll also get access to some amazing freebies to help you start regulating your nervous system and reconnecting with yourself right away.
With the bioregulators, it's more subtle. Right. So generally speaking, bioregulators can really be used from an anti-aging perspective. So imagine that you're driving your car and the tread on your tires is starting to go down. What if you could restore the tread on the tires? Right. So that's a little bit what the bioregulator is doing, which is not to say that they can't be used therapeutically. So if you have an imbalance, you may want to use the bioregulators to help to bring the foundation back into balance. With the peptides, the longer chain peptides, so now we have to look at what is the problem you're trying to solve. Is it a musculoskeletal issue? Is it a muscle pull or a ligament pull? Or is it a gut issue, like you have leaky gut, which we know if you have leaky gut, you probably have leaky brain. You need to understand what are you trying to achieve? And that is ultimately what's going to dictate what do you need. Right? So there are peptides, and there's definitely protocols out there like this new GLOW protocol, which has the GHK copper, and it's got the BPC 157 and the thymosin beta 4. So the BPC 157 and thymosin beta 4 are foundationally repair peptides. I would say foundationally because they do a lot more. BPC 157, we can touch on it on its own right now, give its own little
moment
in the sun, and it gets many moments in the sun.
It does.
So BPC 157 is BPC stands for body protective compound. So that already tells you it's not your brain protective compound, it's not your gut protective, it's the body protective compound. It is naturally secreted in our gut. Right? It is naturally secreted in your digestive juices. It is a fragment of a naturally occurring protein.
Okay.
But what's amazing about BPC 157 is that it is it's a big word, but I'll explain it to you. It's pleiotropic. So pleiotropic means that it has many, many different effects on many different systems in the body. So its first kind of shining moment, maybe, I don't know if it was its first or its second, but one of the big things about BPC, it is magical at healing the gut lining.
Which affects so much.
Virtually everybody needs at some point, right? It's also really powerful at healing tissues. So it's really good for wounds. It's really good for burns. It's great for healing ligaments and tendons and muscles and bone. It's powerful for the brain. It actually is protective for the brain. They've done studies on animals, which brings up a big point, but they've done animal studies that say that if they apply the BPC 157 to an animal before it sustains an impact to the head by accident, we're not going to talk about that, it is actually protective of TBIs. Wow. It is anti-inflammatory. It is analgesic. Like, I could actually go on. And BPC 157 is also extremely versatile because it can be administered orally, or it can be administered topically, or it can be administered by injection. It can be done intranasally, and it can be administered as compounded eye drops. How you use it is determined by what you need.
Okay. I have a quick question because I'm thinking about all my friends with kids around my kids' ages that have heard of all the dangers of concussion in football.
Yeah.
But their boys want to play football. Is this something you said, preventatively for the animals, which is an interesting...
It's an animal study. So this is the challenge, right? We're lacking human studies.
Yeah. Then also for kiddos, we're kind of going on a little sidebar here, but are these things that we can give to our kids? Do we know yet?
So some people do.
Okay.
But I do think that, it depends on certainly for preteens and teens, I've seen a lot of use. I think for little kids, BPC for gut issues might be interesting if you're really stuck. But what I want everybody to remember is that people have been healing without peptides for a really long time. So there's other ways. And with children, I would probably go to peptides as a last resort. Having said that, I had a guy on my podcast a while ago, a couple of years ago now, and his first introduction to peptides, he'd heard about them and whatever, and he is a physician. And a friend of his brought his daughter, and she had damaged her Achilles, and she was a competitive athlete as a 16-year-old. And we all know, or many people know, that the Achilles is very hard to repair because it doesn't get enough blood flow. So what he did is and he's a physician. Again, I'm remembering, this is not somebody's mother doing this.
Yes.
As a physician, he went in under imaging. He did a procedure called debriding the Achilles, which means he kind of damaged it a little bit with the needle, and then he injected BPC 157 directly into that Achilles.
Oof, that would hurt.
And because she'd been stuck for a year, she could not, within a couple of months, her Achilles was good as new.
Wow.
Right? So it is remarkable how these compounds can move the needle. They can be used with young adults for sure. And I think when we go into children, we now need to be working. And, the good news is in the States, there are an increasing number of integrative and functional medical professionals who are familiar with peptides, who are working with peptides. We now need to go to a professional. I'm not super comfortable recommending them, but I know that in Russia, where the bioregulators were discovered and studied extensively on humans, they will use bioregulators with children if they feel they can be helpful in treating a therapeutic condition.
Yeah, like you said, if someone's stuck and they need that extra push.
Yeah, I think, one of the interesting examples, and there's some papers published on this, research papers, is the Olympic gymnastics team. So one of the things that happens to competitive athletes, and this is even when they're young, like 12, 13, 14, 15, as these Olympians are, the training is so taxing on their systems that it accelerates the rate of aging. So so you have a 16-year-old that if you look at their biological age clock, it's actually accelerated to that of like a 25 or 30-year-old. they would use bioregulators after competitions, and they would use them for months and help to restore their biological age back to a more...
In Russia?
Yeah.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so next question. I feel like a lot of us have heard a lot about peptides, but not a lot about bioregulators. And the more I hear you talk, I think bioregulators sound like the star of the show.
Well, they're different, right? Like the bioregulator, I mean, there is a cartilage bioregulator that can support collagen. It upregulates the production of collagen and elastin. And people will say to me, oh, wow, that must be really good for my joints. Yes, and it's also really important for your heart and your kidneys and your blood vessels and your skin. Any organ in the body, which is like all of them, that has to contract and relax is going to need collagen and elastin. So Cartilax, or the cartilage bioregulator, you know, people hear about that one like, oh my God, that's the one. I'm like, yeah, but then we have the blood vessel bioregulator, and then we have the one for the liver and the heart and the kidney and the pineal gland. So I think in many ways they deserve to be the star because of the way that they work, because of their safety profile. But I will say that if somebody has a damaged shoulder or bicep or quad, the BPC 157s, the thymosin beta 4s, like those are the guys that are really going to move the needle for those. The challenge is that they are not approved for human use. These are still research chemicals. And I wanted to get that in here because before everybody gets all excited, I mean, we all need to recognize that we've yet to get the body of research required for the conventional system to recognize these compounds as safe. Now, people have a lot of different theories about that, and we could speculate about it. I have my theories, you have yours. I think it's unfortunate. I think with a compound like BPC 157, one of the issues is that, remember how I was saying, it's good for so many different things. Because it's pleiotropic, pharma hates when you apply something to the body and it does too many things, because they can't say, use this for this. And so I believe that one of the issues with BPC is that because you can't stop it from doing all the things it does, they can't stick it in a box. And so they're not putting the funding behind the research that we need. When they identified that the GLP-1 category was going to help people to lose weight in the way that it does, man, you know that they spent millions and billions of dollars to do that research, to do the clinical trials, to basically produce a compound that they would be able to market.
Yeah, and we see it everywhere.
And, you know, we can talk about those a little bit too. Like the GLP-1s are incredibly powerful and really great if you use them properly.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot out there on that. And I mean, speak to it, because I've heard a bit. It's controversial.
Well, it's interesting. The problem, it's like everything else, right? It's like when statins were discovered, everybody stopped talking about eating properly, stopping alcohol, changing your lifestyle, checking your thyroid. Like, what are all the different reasons why your cholesterol could be high, right? Nobody talks about that anymore. You have a doctor and he writes you a prescription for a statin.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to say that statins are bad, because sometimes they're really good.
But they come at a cost.
But you have people that have a genetic predisposition, like they have that Lp(a), whatever it is, and they would benefit from 5 milligrams a day of a statin. They don't need 30 or 40, right? And they want to be doing all the other things. The GLP-1s are not that different. But what's happened is with the GLP-1s, now that people have figured out that they can eat any crappy food they want and they can still lose weight, oh my God, this is nirvana. I'm down with that. The problem with that is you're now eating way less than you used to. What's going to happen? As you lose weight, you are indeed going to lose muscle if you don't prioritize protein and you don't exercise. And that whole narrative that, oh, you know, I can't exercise while I'm on a GLP-1 and I'm losing my muscle is actually a load of bunk. Because one of the ways that GLP-1s work is they improve the uptake of glucose at skeletal muscle. That will make it easier for you guys to move and to exercise. So also, it affects the reward center in the brain that drives all those crazy cravings and the food noise, right? The food noise that says, as you're eating your breakfast, you're like, oh, what am I going to have for snack? Oh, I really like that thing, that really sweet thing. And then during snack time, you're like, what am I having for lunch? And you keep going your day like that. With the GLP-1s, that chatter shuts down. And now you can make intentional choices about what you're going to eat. So your job when you're using a GLP-1, when now you're eating less than you've ever had before, is to make sure that you eat a very nutrient-dense diet. Because every bite counts.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we eat protein like it's our job. We make sure we get our healthy fats in, not too much, because then you're not going to eat anything else. And we eat as many energy-poor, nutrient-dense food as possible. And what are those? The dreaded vegetables.
The stuff that, I mean, honestly, these lifestyle habits that if people were adopting these first, there's probably way less of a need for the GLP-1.
What's happened in our society is that over-processed, hyper-palatable foods have invaded our world. And they've done this for now decades, right? So our taste buds have been calibrated to want very sweet, very salty, very fat, very whatever. And particularly in North America, we are overwhelmed with all these artificial foods and flavors that are coming at us. So the opportunity, the invitation, if you will, when you're using a GLP-1 is to, now that you don't have the cravings, now that you don't care as much about eating, this is the opportunity to recalibrate your taste buds, to reboot your diet, get used to, lose the toddler palate, right? Stop eating like a 2-year-old, grow up, get yourself to a place where you now become reacquainted with food so that an apple tastes sweet as opposed to needing a gummy bear.
Fruit snacks, yeah.
Right? Or fruit snack where you've concentrated that sweetness into a paste.
Yeah.
So recalibrate your taste buds. Move with the intention of saying, you know what, I'm going to eat the right diet now. And I'm going to retrain my taste buds, retrain my body. I'm going to get back to the gym. And look, if you've got 80 pounds to lose and you haven't walked in 20 or 30 years, I'm not telling you to go to the gym. I'm telling you to take a 10-minute walk after every meal. And as your inflammation comes down, as your pain comes down, as the weight comes down, you're going to want to move more. Right? So start where you're at. Don't think that you have to hit the gym right away. If you can, bonus. But if you can't, just start moving, because that movement, preferably outside, is part of what's going to help to reset your entire system.
Yeah. So it's basically like a crutch is what I'm hearing.
It's, you know what,
To
more
flip
than
the
a crutch,
habits.
you know what I really like is the training wheels on your bike.
Yeah, I
Right?
like that analogy.
So depending on where you're starting, you might need those training wheels to be on the ground because it's been so long. But as you go, the further you go, those training wheels come up and you don't rely on them as much. The other mistake that I see happening with GLP-1s is people are in a rush. They're like, I need to lose 30 pounds this month. And what happens is they go to too high a dose, their blood sugar crashes, and now we start to see real problems. And so, and I think, I just interviewed a doctor about this recently. There was a big study or a big story in the media that came out about people waking up blind. And what she said is that where this was happening, where they were seeing that are people who were probably already diabetic, and their blood sugar was coming down too fast. And they still don't really, she said at the time, they didn't really have the mechanism of action figured out because there was nothing that we know about the GLP-1s really points to this. But she thinks that sudden drop in blood sugar, the body really doesn't like, right? So you want to be gradual and you want to basically find the lowest effective dose for you. And that's the dose that's maybe going to help your body to release a pound a week. So does that mean that if you have 60 pounds to lose, it's going to take 60 weeks? Maybe. But you know what? You didn't get there in a week.
Right, as it should.
Give your body time to adapt. Give your hypothalamus time to reset your set weight. Because if you drop the weight too fast, your body's going to want it right back.
100%. Okay, I love that.
Sorry, that was a big rant on GLP-1s.
No, it's interesting because I feel like there's a lot of information out there and, you know, I trust you. So it's interesting to hear your take on it.
Thank you.
So the training wheel analogy, you know, for GLPs, is this how we look at like all peptides, all bioregulators? Is this something that once you start taking, you take every day? It's temporary is what I heard you say on stage.
Hey, real quick, you know I love tools that help us feel more grounded and connected, right? That's why I am obsessed with a higher dose PEMF mat. It's my go-to for the moments when life feels overwhelming and I just need a reset. This mat uses PEMF technology to help calm your nervous system, reduce stress, and recharge your energy all in just a few minutes. So whether I'm taking a break from life, looking to unwind after a hectic day, recover from workouts, or just simply catch my breath, it's like giving my body that ultimate recharge. So seriously, if you're looking for an easy way to feel balanced and relaxed, you've got to check it out. For all my favorite higher dose products and an epic discount code just for you, check out my links in the description. Now let's get back to the show.
So with the repair peptides, like the longer chain peptides, we generally are going to use them in 8 to 12 week cycles. What we want to see, and there's a couple of exceptions to this rule, and I'll fill you in on what those are. But what we really want to see, especially let's say we have a sore back or a sore shoulder, we should see an improvement in our symptoms within a couple of weeks. If we don't see improvement within a couple of weeks, it could be a couple of things. It could be the wrong peptide. It could be wrong dosing. And it also could be that the driver of that pain is not being addressed, right? So if you have, if you have a misalignment in your joint or an imbalance in the muscles, and so let's say in the shoulder, the humerus is sitting in the wrong position, sorry, I'm getting into big words.
I can help you.
But that's irritated, like supraspinatus getting irritated, it gets inflamed, and now there's pain. So the BPC and the TB4 and the whatever is going to help reduce that inflammation. But if you haven't repositioned and corrected the imbalances, it's just going to keep happening.
Got it. So it basically will heal when the body's in alignment where it needs to be.
It'll help you to feel better.
Fix something that's broken.
It's not going to fix the alignment, right? So it's going to help you. And the good news, it's going to help you to heal faster.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to turn it up. On the gut issues, sometimes we see people that have such terrible gut issues that they feel horrible. They have no energy. They're in pain all the time. Sometimes when we give them even an oral stack of BPC and other peptides that help to heal the gut, they feel better. So now they can do the work.
Well, yeah, because your gut's your brain.
Exactly.
Connected, right?
Exactly.
Fuzzy gut, fuzzy brain.
100%. Now, again, not going to correct the microbiome, so we still have to do that work.
Right.
But if we can help you to kind of get a leg up and feel a bit better, you're going to be able to heal faster.
Yeah, I've definitely experienced that. I get that feeling. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Desert island.
Yeah.
Well, actually, before I do that one, where do we go to figure out which ones are for us and what's the dose?
Okay, so a couple of things. Number one, I really like people to connect with a coach or a physician that's going to get them from point A to point B. I think that is the ideal way to go. If you are kind of the queen of N of one and you're biohacker, whatnot, there are peptide courses out there. I have one that I offer. You can find it at natniddam.com.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a membership community also that is a place, and it's what's great about this community is there are practitioners and physicians and regular people. And I keep hearing this all the time. I get new members in the community. They're like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm in the right place. I don't understand anything that anybody's. And what happens is that it's such a great community that we bring people along.
Aww.
So if you're that person and you want to educate yourself, it's a really great thing to do. If that's too much for you still, and you're still kind of the N of one, I want to self-experiment, there's a really cool new app called peptidepro.app.
Okay.
And if you can use code Nathalie50, and the reason to use code Nathalie50 is you'll get all my resources. You don't have to use Nathalie50, but if you want my resources, you can do that. What's nice about Peptide Pro is it takes you to kind of Peptide University. They've got an encyclopedia of over 165 different compounds and peptides. So number one, it'll allow you to educate yourself. If you type in what problem you're dealing with, they'll suggest different stacks and ways to approach it.
Oh, cool.
They'll give you starting doses. There's a calendar where you can put in your cycle. It'll tell you when your 8 weeks or your 12 weeks are up. There's a peptide calculator because everybody's big fear is peptide math. It is. It's traumatizing.
Peptide math. That's for dosage, I'm assuming. What is peptide math?
So here's something that'll happen. This is hilarious. So I get 3 different questions that are crazy. The one is, what's the peptide for? Fill in the blank. They never like my answer because I'm like, well, what's driving?
What's the root cause?
Why is this happening?
Yeah.
That's the only way we're going to figure it out.
Right.
That's what's this peptide for. The next one is, okay, I'm using 5 units of a peptide. I'm like, that's awesome. That doesn't tell me anything about how much you're using. And they're looking at me, what are you talking about? Well, there's a concentration. how many milligrams per milliliter.
Oh, peptide math.
Because 5 units is 5 units of a milliliter.
Yeah.
Right? And there's 1,000 or 100, there are 100
something
micrograms actually in a milliliter. We're talking about micrograms here, which again, Americans are at a disadvantage because we're now tapping into the metric system, which is Chinese to begin with.
Yeah.
So peptide math can be very challenging. The nice thing is this app can take that right off the table. Also, it gives you a protocol, and then it tells you you're going to need 4 vials of this and 3 vials of that.
Wow.
To fulfill the protocol. And then there's like a little shopping area where you can get your...
So you can buy them through the app.
Correct.
And they mail right to your house.
They will.
And then you give yourself a shot.
You can give a shot or you can take a pill depending on that. Now, again, I feel it behooves me to repeat that these are research chemicals. Most of them are not approved for human use.
And this is just educational, not medical advice.
This is educational. I'm not a doctor, but it's such a hard thing, right? Because I'm interviewing doctors and practitioners all the time who are telling me we are shortening the time it takes to heal people by using these peptides and compounds. The bioregulators are a bit different because the oral natural form of the bioregulator is actually classified as a nutritional supplement.
Oh.
You would get bioregulators if you ate organ meats.
Oh.
Because that's where they come from.
Got it.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
So we can go not natural, but we can go the whole food route. The problem is it's pretty hard to find thymus glands and kidneys, and you're not going to eat blood vessels. It's kind of gross. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to chew on a vein in an artery.
Yeah.
So the bioregulator, the natural form of the bioregulator, which is considered a nutritional supplement, is actually an extract from those organs and tissues.
So it's easier to get in.
So it's way easier to get it. But when it comes, BPC 157, like there are companies there's a company called Level Up Health. And again, it'll be in those resources. There's a company, they have oral formulas of the peptides that are orally bioavailable. We didn't really talk about that. A lot of people will say, well, you can't take peptides because they'll get broken in the gut. I'm like, some, but not all.
Okay.
Right? So there's a lot of nuance here. It's a deep subject. So
well, I can see why that app could be a really cool resource for someone who maybe wants to dip their toes, check it out, not go full into peptide.
Just get educated.
Yeah.
Before you could use it even before you decide whether you want to go there.
Yeah.
Because it's an education. And there's podcasts, obviously. I have a bunch of podcasts on my podcast.
Yeah, I want to link your podcast because tons of great interviews on there. It's a whole podcast on peptides.
There's a bunch of them.
Yeah. Okay, so as we're wrapping up, a couple questions I have. The desert island peptide or bioregulator that you would take with you.
Can I have one of each?
And then you can have whatever you want, Nathalie. It's your island.
Okay.
And then maybe we'll do some quick do's and don'ts.
Okay. So my desert island peptide and bioregulator. So peptides and bioregulators. So one thing I want to say, and I started to say this morning in the talk, but I was now in negative time. So
fat.
So I was talking even faster.
30-minute talks fast.
So the pineal gland bioregulator, if I had to pick one bioregulator. So the first thing I'm going to say, the caveat is if I had a liver issue, my desert island bioregulator would be the liver bioregulator, right?
Right.
If I had a heart issue, it would probably be for the heart, although I'd need the blood vessel bioregulator too. But I digress. So my go-to bioregulator, if I'm doing nothing else, is the pineal gland bioregulator. The reason for that is it's very powerful for anti-aging purposes. Now, why and how does it do that? It helps to reset your circadian rhythm. It normalizes melatonin production. It helps to lengthen telomeres. It has an overarching balancing effect on hormones. And it also has some very powerful immune properties. So it's kind of like the whole package. Now, if you were on a desert island and you were happy to be on the desert island, you might not need all these things.
Right.
Because you'd be living in nature.
Yeah, you wouldn't have
Wake
any
up with the
artificial
sun,
lighting.
go to bed.
The circadian rhythm would be set. But yeah, I love that. I mean, I'm all about syncing with our natural rhythms. I talk about that a lot. That helps us live in flow, not force. And so you think about, how much our circadian rhythms are negatively impacted. And let's just go back to the power of our innate ability to heal. Well, when your circadian rhythm is off, that throws everything off.
100%.
So when we can go upstream and we are in natural light and we're in darkness when it's supposed to be dark,
Mm-hmm.
and we sleep well.
Yeah.
So there's a peptide that can help fix all that. Bioregulator.
It can help to bring us back into balance,
Help
right?
bring us back into balance.
So make sure, and so it's an anti-aging, in many ways, an anti-aging peptide. And guess what? And we know that our melatonin production tanks as we age, right? We naturally kind of start to slide. And there's some really interesting studies that Professor Kavinson did in Russia with aging populations that showed that it reduced mortality rate. Anyway, that's all. That could be a whole other episode. I'm going to stop.
Yeah.
Now, my desert island peptide is going to be BPC-157. Well, it's hard to say. It's either BPC-157 or GHK copper. So
I want to talk about the copper one because
do?
Like a teaser.
Okay, good. We can
Like
do
a
a little
trailer.
teaser, and then we can do another episode on GHK.
Yeah, we'll do a trailer for copper.
So GHK copper gets a lot of attention ever since it really hit. It was actually discovered by an American researcher in 1973.
Oh, wow.
His name is Dr. Lauren Pickard. He's one of your guys. And it's a tripeptide. So that means it's 3 amino acids, and Cu is the chemical symbol for copper. And that's because it uses copper as a cofactor. It needs copper. And what's cool about it is it's like cobalt blue because that's the color of copper.
Oh,
if you see it, it's really cool. One of the main reasons people use GHK copper is because it also upregulates the collagen and elastin production in the body. So it's really powerful for skin. What's amazing about GHKCU, and it's been studied at Stanford University now, is that it flips over 4,000 genes back to their more youthful settings.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
we could do
that's a good one.
whole episode just on GHKCU.
Yeah, so that's a good one.
It's really, and it is also pleiotropic. So it might, and you know, if I was on a desert island, I might not have sunscreen. So maybe, you know, and GHKCU is also anti-inflammatory. It helps to repair wounds. It helps to reverse aging, and, you know, it restores the genome to a more youthful setting. But then we have BPC-157. So those are the three. If you put my feet to the fire, I would kind of pick those three.
Yeah, I could see why. I'm very curious to try the pineal gland one now.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, I feel like I did
and
a
you're
great
going
job with
across
circadian
time
rhythm,
zones.
but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so real quick, maybe some do's and don'ts when it comes to peptides and bioregulators.
Okay. Do not use a peptide because you heard it's so cool. Know why you're using it. And that doesn't mean you can't use peptides. I'm just saying, don't think that you just always have to be using peptides. You know, obviously GHKCU, there's some talk out there that maybe we should be using it as we age really consistently. But, you know, it's a little bit like growth hormone, right? Everybody's like running around talking about using growth hormone as we age. Maybe there's a reason why our growth hormone levels start to go down as we age.
Right.
Maybe there's an argument for restoring them a little bit, but not going too high. You have more damaged DNA in your body. There's higher risks if you crank up the anabolic processes.
Like, let's start to trust that the body kind of knows what it's doing.
Yeah. And so, but we want to find that line because we do hormone replacement because we don't want to fall off a cliff either.
Yeah.
So we need to start applying discernment, big word, to the things that we do. So I'm not saying don't use them. I'm just saying don't overuse them. Don't over depend on them. Don't blindly do something because your BFF did it. You have a different set of circumstances. There are some risks that are involved. Don't believe that nothing bad can happen because you can have an allergic reaction, particularly to the injectable peptides. The immune system sometimes, even if it's something that technically comes from your body, is like, yeah, that's a no-go.
Yeah. You talked about that on stage. I've gotten like a bug bite.
Yeah.
From a BPC-157.
Yeah. So if you get a little bug bite and it's gone within a half hour or so, or an hour, you're fine.
Okay.
But if that bug bite is still there tomorrow and you do another injection and you get another bug bite and then you do another one and the bug bite becomes a wasp bite and then it goes bigger and bigger and now you start to feel racy, your immune system's giving you a very clear signal.
Yeah.
This
is
is not
the
okay.
first bite is kind of that signal.
Sometimes, right? But you just listen to your body, right? Don't ignore things thinking, oh, well, you know, my buddy used this and it was amazing. The other thing is sometimes you'll use something for 4 weeks and week 5, your immune system's like, actually, no. And maybe it was giving you very subtle signs for a while. And now all of a sudden it's just throwing up the red flag. Saying,
and what would the red flag be? The rash?
It could be the rash. It could be very hot, itchy site. Okay. It could be a nervous system thing, right? So familiarize yourself with these compounds. Know that things can go sideways sometimes. The bioregulators are kind of the exception to this rule. I've very rarely seen a negative side effect from the bioregulators, but I never say never.
Yeah.
Because there's always going to be someone
Always
somewhere.
gonna be something. Well, so it sounds like working with someone who knows what they're doing is really important.
Educating yourself.
Bioregulators need to have just as big of a moment as peptides are, if not more. I'm very curious. I'm going to pick your brain a lot this weekend on bioregulators.
Pick away.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like we covered a lot of basics. I'll bring you back on for any follow-up questions. I'm going to link all of Nathalie's podcasts and resources. Is there anything else that you want the listeners to know about peptides or anything else?
I think the last thing I always feel like I have to bring it back to this in the end is that none of this precludes all of the foundational information that you're getting from Melissa, that whether it's nervous system regulation, exposure to the right light at the right time we talked about, eating the right foods, grounding, like all of those, your lifestyle practices, your diet, like all of these things are foundational. And don't forget that if you're using a repair peptide, the contractor needs materials, right? If the house is on fire, you can send in the nicest kitchen. It's going to burn with the house. So helping to reduce inflammation, helping to clear toxins out of the body, all of those things. Don't forget that what you don't do is often as important, if not more important, than what you do.
So good. So good. Thank you so much, Nathalie.
You're so welcome. Such a pleasure.
Yes.
At
And we
last.
finally did it. We finally did it. All right. I hope you guys loved that one. I know I learned so much. I always love to hear from you guys. Put in the comments or in the reviews maybe what your favorite takeaway was from this episode. Ask any questions. I love the back and forth with you guys. If you like this episode, go ahead, throw a like up, share it with someone you love, and we will see you next time.